The following is for those of us who have seen the first season of Altered Carbon. If you've not seen the first season of Altered Carbon, please leave. So, it's been a while since I've watched the show. I didn't really like the second season that much. There's quite a bit of weirdness with that, like the pacings seemed like a little off, and I don't think it's the same character, really. But today what I wanted to talk about was the simple reality that, yeah, the sister seems to be, or at least originally before she went incest and crazy and like did bad things to exploited women and whatever, seems to be kind of the most rational person in the entire show. Yeah, at least like hundreds of years before the start of the first season, when she betrayed everyone, she was right to do that. Yeah. I mean, sure, it's not very smart to trust someone who promised your brother, your safety, and then you didn't end up safe. You ended up as an exploited minion. But yeah, realistically speaking, like the idea that people would become immortal and then you would stop that system and cap their lives at only like 100 years while they are at the beginnings of space colonization is just so batshit retarded. I have no words. So you have this society of super rich people and they're exploiters and blah 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 and they control everything, which is already a thing. But then these super rich people controlling everything would have descendants, right? And those descendants would need to be managed. So if you just suddenly cut off the lifespan of all the rich people, a couple of things would happen. First of all of their kids and their kids' kids and all their kids' kids' kids would get into a big, giant, massive fight. Second, all of the military leaders would have an excuse to seize all of the assets of the spoiled rich kids. Third, all of these rich kids would have remembered their parents living for a whatever amount of time, and they would be dreaming of getting immortality back, getting longevity back, and they would go to extremes because they know it's possible to recreate the technology or make an alternative. Next, what do we know about the technology that ends up being developed? Just for the fun of it, you have near instant cloning technology. You have the ability to alter your new body to be more powerful, more skilled, military grade, advanced senses, blah, blah, blah. So all these rich kids, first of all, the reason why we age is that certain parts of our biology run out. So if you have the ability to 3D print stem cells and younger blood, which naturally recycles every 7 years, the cells in your body just like end up being dead and replaced by the new cells. So the longevity of our human cells is only 7 years. With the technology we know was available like 200 years after the fact, eventually they would have figured out a way to make their bodies immortal. And if your ability to make bodies immortal depends on scientific research, and all the military leaders have the ability to seize assets and do what the fuck ever because of the interplanetary crisis, you end up with a military at the top society with an underclass of spoiled rich kids, yes, but spoiled rich kids who are now 6 times more deadly, with injections of fresh versions of their blood controlled by the military that extend their lives and also make them stronger and stronger. So you have a world of beast people in control of spaceships. And you would have various bootleg products, various half-assed products designed for the less wealthy to give them special abilities. So you wouldn't have someone get a full genetic update, but a partial genetic update. So you'd have extra mutated semi-rich people who cannot afford the infinite life injection. You would have various gradations of treatments based on how much money you can spend on someone reviewing your entire genetic history. And since the less wealthy rich people are likely to be the children of rich people with similar DNA, the technology to make someone immortal would become almost like a semi-noble, would create a class of nobility, because you now have an even greater, like, just generation, like, massive gap in fundamental biology relative to the people who rule everyone, right? So the distant relatives of rich people would likely get an advantage, while the people who hate the rich people, who want to move up in the world, will need to be placated. And of course, there's a limit to human growth, so there would be a sort of eugenics idea germinating in some of these spoiled, entitled, newly kingified rich people, and they would systematically engineer ways to disincentivize the creation of the cultivation of new talent. Or alternatively, some other faction would be incentivized to create new rich people, focusing on completely different genetic families, because they know that you need a healthy alternative genetic structure to blend with, because you have to worry about incest, right? So you would have them specifically organizing society based on genetic similarity. You would fundamentally bring back racism and make it an economic class thing. All the races would have completely different economic situations and would be incentivized to stick among their own, to have political allegiances to their own races, their own genetic trees, their own genetic mega families, their own clans, basically. And that's just like from the top of my head. Like, think about all of the different cultures that could develop as a consequence of the decapitation of the wealthy. You would be triggering multiple interstellar wars by doing this. In fact, it's likely that you would trigger at least one or two interstellar wars by doing this. And the alternative to this is, just as always in history, the rich get richer, only now the super rich live for a couple hundred years, and they're a lot more predictable, a lot more conservative, but also a lot more in control of their spoiled descendants, up until some of those descendants just are too far away from them socially for them to really give a shit. And there would be some incest involved, yeah. But, like, you could just borrow another body to facilitate that incest. So you would be able to fuck your own granddaughter in another man's body that's been genetically designed to imitate your own body. And it's like, yeah, I mean, the parents of the parents of the parents control the wealth, and the spoiled great-great-great-grandchildren might want to fuck over their great-great-great-grandparents, but it's more of a family thing, and it's a lot more likely to result in resolutions, while the underclass is largely ignored because you don't have an incentive to make the lives of the underclass worse, unless if you want to have a sex dungeon. But then you could just cultivate your own cult in secret and have your own cult transplanted into bodies of, people you want to fuck, and just fuck them, and it would just be like a very limited sort of disgusting, as opposed to interstellar fucking war. So I don't think the cult of what's-her-face, I think it was Falconer, actually thought things through. It is a cult, and she is just another rich person. She is just another rich person exploiting people's fascination with an idea. It's clearly a cult. And yeah, they got brutally murdered and sad and it's bad people, but really, I don't see any sort of breakdown of what the MAGA plan is. It's just, let's just kill rich people and humanity will figure it out. That's very, very ancient anarchism, and anarchism has taken so many steps forward. You need, an actual plan if you're gonna do that. Otherwise, you're just another terrorist. And that's what I have to say about that.